Okay, please rise for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In the event of an emergency, all people may exit right or left from this room and proceed to an exit door. All doors will open from the inside. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Haledon Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published in the North Jersey Record Herald News, the board's official newspaper, on January 10, 2024. Notices of this meeting indicating date, time, and place were posted publicly on the door of the main entrance to the school and filed with the clerk in the municipality of Haledon. Roll call, please.
Mr. Rossi?
Here.
Mr. Coletta?
Present.
Ms. Quadrado?
Here.
Mr. Guzman?
Here.
Mr. Martinez? Mr. Moxell?
Here.
Mr. Ramadan?
Here.
Dr. Webb?
Here.
And Mrs. Issa.
Here. Okay, can I have a motion to accept correspondence?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Motzko, seconded by Dr. Webb. Roll call, please.
Mr. Rossi?
Yes.
Mr. Coletta?
Yes.
Ms. Quadrado?
Yes.
Mr. Guzman?
Yes.
Mr. Moxell?
Yes.
Mr. Ramadan?
Yes.
Dr. Webb?
Yes.
And Mrs. Issa.
Yes. Okay, can I have a motion to accept prior minutes?
So moved. Second.
Moved. Was that Dr. Webb?
Yes.
Seconded, moved by Dr. Webb, seconded by Mr. Motzko. Roll call, please.
Mr. Rossi?
Yes.
Mr. Coletta?
Stay.
Ms. Quadrado?
Yes.
Mr. Guzman? Mr. Moxell?
Yes.
Mr. Ramadan?
Stay.
Dr. Webb?
Yes.
And Mrs. Issa.
Yes. Okay, can I have a motion to open the floor to citizens on agenda items only?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. Coletta, seconded by Mr. Motzko. Roll call, please.
All in favor?
Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the floor is open. To citizens on agenda items only? Nobody? Oh, okay, all right, can I have a motion to close?
Motion to close. Second.
Moved by Mr. Guzman, seconded by Mr. Ramadan. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, okay, moving on to reports. Okay, so, good evening, everyone. Thank you for taking time to join us on this lovely evening at the end of summer, even if it's just us, it's okay. First, I want to thank Mr. Morgan, our middle school social studies teacher, 8th grade advisor, and junior honor society advisor for several years of service and dedication to Haledon Public School, and especially to our 8th grade students. As the last year at HPS, where many of our graduates have spent most of their school years up to this point, 8th grade is so important academically and socially. Those teachers have the responsibility to instill in their students for one last year the skills and values they will carry with them into high school and use as a foundation for their adult lives. Yes, this is what our teachers do starting in pre-K, but 8th grade teachers play a special role in that final formation here at HPS, and it's crucial to our kids' success as they leave our halls. Having worked with Mr. Morgan for a few years in my role as PTA president, planning 8th grade end of year activities, I know that he put a lot of effort and care into making 8th grade a wonderful and meaningful experience for our students. So on behalf of the Haledon Board of Education, we thank Mr. Morgan and wish him the best in his future endeavors. Secondly, with the Board of Education elections coming up in November and campaigning getting underway, I want to remind everyone that as per policy 3233/4233, no campaigning of any form may take place on school property or at events taking place on school property. And I wish all the candidates good luck. And that is my report. So I will turn it over now to our Chief School Administrator, Mr. Waka.
Thank you, Board President Isa. I also want to comment on Mr. Morgan leaving us. We're happy that he's moving on to high school. I know that a lot of people that are aspiring administrators, it helps to have both the middle school and the high school experience. So we wish him the best. And he did a lot of things that were really good for our school and our kids. So he's always welcome back. We got some construction updates. The playground, they're going to start working on the playground later this week. They put a lot of the equipment's already here. They're going to tear up the playground, and then the following week they're going to be putting a new playground in. It's scheduled to be done before the first day of school starts, but we're looking forward to having that project start. I'm really happy that we were able to find this kind of Goldilocks zone between where summer school ended and then where the new school year started. Get that. And then the main construction, you kind of, it's hard not to walk by and see, how much has gotten done. We got a kind of an optimistic report to make it today. It looks like we're slightly ahead of where we're scheduled, so that's really, really good news. The rooms that were lost last year because of the construction going on above, some of them have already been moved into. Other ones, the next couple of days, the custodians are fitting those rooms with desks and the learning materials and things like that. So it looks like probably mid-October, once we get a little closer, we'll kind of find consensus for a day we could all get together for, the ribbon cutting when we're finally done with it. And then I know that, this board's looking to service as many preschoolers as we can. So at that point, we'll, probably like that last week of October, that first week of November, we'll do what we did last year and open up yet another preschool section. And that's funded by the state, so it's not going to, affect the property tax or anything like that. But, there was times where when I was at the principal school, when there was 30 kids that were able to receive preschool, and now it's going to be about 105. So that's great that this board was able to do that. I saw that Captain and former board president, current board member George Guzman and I are going to be presenting a workshop at the New Jersey School Board Association, effective partnerships between law enforcement and the school districts. So Tuesday morning at 11, we have the floor, and I know George and I are looking forward to setting that up. And we're also excited because, fingers crossed, George, an application has been submitted on his behalf for the New Jersey Board Member of the Year. So that would be a nice exacta to hit both of those at the workshop. We talked, I think, during my evaluation about the board's desire to see a little more academic data. So I met with our academic coach 3 times throughout the year at board meetings. We'll schedule this advance, but maybe like 2 or 3 weeks after our teachers get the presentation. But here's what our benchmark data is showing us to give a board-specific presentation at board meetings, so the community can kind of be, on that same page that you guys have requested. We have our Meet the Teacher Night. That's been a tremendous success since we started it. The amount of little children that are crying the first day of school has been reduced like 8,000% because of that idea. The teachers do a great job. So that's going to be the night before the first day of school. And then you also see in your board agenda the professional development calendar. That was also in response to my evaluation. The board requested, we want to see what our PD is doing throughout the year. So there's that. And I know Ms. Bolzano worked hard to put that together. So I thank her. I know that there's on the agenda, there's a proposal for an August 24th, like a local community member giving away school supplies, which is something we want to support. There's some idea that it was going to be moved to the 25th. It's going to be the 24th, or it's going to be the 24th. That's what we're going to have to do, and that's what the board's approving. So I'm hopeful that it stays that way. We do always want to encourage local people that have philanthropy in their hearts to give back to the kids. And I know I'll be there that day to help out as well. We have our new teacher orientation on Wednesday, my birthday, so we get to meet all the new Haledon public school teachers. And I know Ms. Miller and the rest of her team do a great job with that. And And then the last thing is just, our policy committee met, and a lot of them were kind of, pretty much straightforward policy or revisions. Then there's the one policy that was created by I believe Omar was the author of it from that committee. So I'm sure you guys may want to discuss that at some point this meeting. And that's my report.
Any questions for Mr. Waka? Thank you, Mr. Waka. Moving on to our business administrator, Ms. Augustin.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to remind the board members that we are scheduled to go to the New Jersey School Boards Convention October 21st to the 24th. So if there are any changes, any registration changes or accommodation changes, please let us know in advance because we can get a refund or we need to add on and make it as early as possible. So we would definitely appreciate that. Even if you're staying for 2 days or 3 days or days, just let us know in advance. The earlier we know, the better we can kind of get everybody settled. We have a few items that I wanted to note on the finance side. Even though 8.1 is not part of finance, I just want to make a note that the Moon Zoom is going to be coming out of ESSER funds. So we did make that change prior to the initial agenda that went out. So we're trying to wrap up all the ESSER funds, by September 30th. So we were able to find the avenue to use those funds for this particular subscription. And I also believe on 8.2, we're using ESSER funds for the PD. We do have some ESSER funds left for teachers to take a professional development training with William Patterson University. So that's what we're using those funds for. 12.1 is our IDEA application. This year, the board was granted basic funds of $267,000, which primarily goes all to tuition. And then we have the preschool funds of $12,789, and that will be split between salaries, instructional supplies, and benefits. 12.9 on the agenda is real-time information system. This is training that is given to the new staff, a refresher to our existing staff on real-time modules, specifically the 504 plans and any type of training that can help the staff utilize the system to its full capacity. We have our joint transportation at 12.10 is the per diem rate with Manchester School. This is every year we approve, and this is a per diem rate in case there is a service that's needed with Manchester. What invoices them for however many trips, and this is outside of our HPS priority of transportation. 12.11, we're establishing a petty cash fund for certified angels. There is a need for it because they were using the after school petty cash. So we feel like because of the activity, we need both programs to have their own petty cash. So we'll be recertifying this every year. We're approving our application 12.12 for our construction. 12.13 is our official depositories we're changing the signatures on our bank account to add our treasurers of school money. And we have our official fees for 12.14, which is our athletic official fees for sports events. And 12.18, we have voluntary student accident insurance. And just to clarify, we have student accident insurance for sponsored school events. So this voluntary application is for parents who need additional coverage outside of the school day or any sponsored event. So just so that there's a distinguish between we do cover our students while they're in school, or if there's an event or outside of the event, if a parent wants to get some additional coverage, they can do so. That's it for me. If there's any questions.
Questions for Ms. Augustin? Okay, thank you, Ms. Augustin. Okay, so moving on to personnel and management, Mr. Guzman.
Agenda items.
Okay, curriculum and technology, Dr. Webb.
Agenda items on.
Policy and public relations, Mr. Abbasi.
So yeah, there was a policy committee today, which I missed. I did leave some notes for. So if Mr. Coletta wants to say anything in regard to that, I'll defer to him. Well, we have agenda item 9.2 today, really just to discuss a draft bylaw that we put together regarding remote participation. So there's really, if you guys had a chance to read through it, if not, we can discuss it as it comes up in the agenda. Otherwise, nothing else. I'll defer to Mike if he wants to say anything regarding the policy committee meeting. Over.
Want to add anything, Mr.
We-
Coletta?
We had a productive policy meeting. We had a couple questions regarding the new policy. We appreciate that you put so much effort in and did such a great job coming up with something. That was pretty much it. Everything else agenda item only.
Thank you. Security and safety, Mr. Guzman?
I have something, but I'll bring it up on the open.
Okay. Community engagement, Mr. Abbasi?
Nothing to report.
Okay, and finance and physical plant, Mr. Motzko?
We met, went over the bills. Other than that, agenda items.
Okay. For state and county, so the Passaic County School Board Association has set its meeting schedule for the 24-25 school year. So unfortunately, their first meeting in September conflicts with our meeting. But the December meeting doesn't conflict, and when we're doing our meetings for the coming year, we should take into consideration the dates for the county meeting so that we can avoid that as much as possible, you know, having conflicting dates. So that's that. The New Jersey School Board Association's Fall Labor Summit is coming up on October 1st. That is before the workshop. So that's just like a comprehensive one-day event, and they cover things like governmental relations and legislative update, a legal update, data labor update, negotiating the contract, and public relations surrounding labor relations. So that's October 1st, if anybody's interested in attending that, and you do get free credits for that. And then lastly, if you are interested, board members, in providing testimony regarding New Jersey's educator evaluation system, the New Jersey Educator Evaluation Review Task Force is holding a virtual meeting, a virtual hearing on Wednesday, August 28th from 4 to 6 to gather input from various stakeholders, including board members. So the deadline to register for that is August 26th, and the details can be found in an email that was sent from Timothy Purnell, who's the executive director of the New Jersey School Board Association. I believe it was August 15th that email was sent out. So that's it for state and county. Any questions? Okay, Mr. Merlino, anything for?
No report tonight.
Okay, thank you. All right, then let's go up to personnel and management, Mr. Guzman.
I'd like to move items 7.1 to 7.7. Second.
Okay, moved by Mr. Guzman, seconded by Dr. Webb. Roll call, please.
Mr. Abbasi?
Yes.
Mr. Coletta?
Yes.
Ms. Quadrado?
Yes.
Mr. Guzman?
Yes.
Mr. Matzo?
Yes.
Mr. Ramadan?
Yes.
Dr. Webb?
Yes.
And Mrs. Zissou.
Yes. Okay, curriculum and technology, Dr. Webb.
Before I make my motion, I would like to echo the statement by our president in regards to the professional development plan being laid out for the entire school year. I thought that was really cool to read through that. Thanks to all. So I'd like to move 8.1 through 8.6.
And can I speak, 'cause I know Mr. Abbasi, Mr. Abbasi emailed me today to ask me to speak about the William Patterson Professor in Residence Agreement. That's something we've probably done for the last 7 or 8 or 9 years. I think it's 10,000 or 12,000 or something like that. What they do is they send a professor to work with whatever goals we're looking to meet that particular year or years for our school. So if you've seen, like, when you walk in, you'll see like the lockers are painted with books. That was from something from that. We did the drum thing. You were at that one year with that. So every year we've had so many new teachers since COVID that we've had them help a lot acclimating new teachers to the profession. But that's been a pretty good home run for us.
And that also involves the student teachers that come from William Patterson, right?
Yes. So we get a nicer table at the recruitment fairs, so that helps.
So that was moved by Dr. Webb, and did somebody second?
Second, Carlos.
Okay, seconded by Mr. Motzko. Roll call, please.
Mr. Abbasi?
yes, but I abstain from 8.6.
Mr. Coletta,
Yes.
Ms. Quadrado,
Yes.
Mr. Guzman,
Yes.
Mr. Moxell,
Yes.
Mr. Ramadan,
Yes.
Dr. Webb,
Yes.
and Mrs. Lissette.
Yes. Okay, policy committee, Mr. Abbasi.
Yeah, I'd like to move items 9.1 and 9.2.
Second.
Okay, moved by Mr. Abbasi, seconded by Mr. Motzko. Do we want to have a discussion first, or do we just want to discuss as we vote?
So the draft, what does that mean?
So it's
So
a
did everybody receive, why don't, Mr. Abbasi, why don't you go through the draft? Did everybody receive this? Lois
Yeah.
sent it on, she sent it today, I believe. Mr. Abbasi, if you want to go through the draft?
Sure. So it's a 2-page policy put together using some other documentation and other policies that are in place in other districts as a backdrop for it, regarding remote participation at board meetings. So I'm listing the example today for you all. So just one noting, it's the responsibility of board members to try to be there physically in person. If you're not able to, so I put in the preamble section about if it's something that the entire Board of Ed has to do in the event of a public health scare, natural disaster, state of emergency, that doesn't count against the instances that are referred to in this policy. So this recognizes that board members will have stuff come up. Maybe they're out of state for work. Maybe they have a medical emergency, wherever it may be, where they might have to participate remotely. So we're not, going to make that difficult in any way, but just essentially there's a few rules associated with it that we would like board members to try to abide by as much as possible. First, you have to a 24-hour prior notice. I saw other policies that was 48 hours, 72 hours, but I think sometimes stuff can creep up pretty late. So a 24-hour notice to the board president and the board secretary and administrator. The board president has to approve. You'll be counted towards the quorum. You've got to have your microphone on, your full name when you log in. A place where there's no disruption. So right now I'm in my work office alone. I actually have to turn on the lights for the entire building because I got here late. You have to be able to participate in all comments, questions, and you're gonna expect it to vote and everything as normal. And then really the kicker is number 8. We're trying to limit it as much as possible. So 3 times within a calendar year. We don't really discuss and that I put in built an exception if there's medical conditions that cause you to miss more than 3. We don't really discuss what a penalty would be. I don't know how to address that, but just really best effort, try attend, and then and 9 is the other kicker. So 8 and 9 are really the crux of the whole policy. 9 would be if there's an executive session. We don't know what's going on around you. We don't know who else can see. We don't know who else can hear your audio. And it's an executive session. So for that purpose, if you're on remote and the board goes into executive session, you're basically going to abstain from voting and you can't participate in it unless you're there in person. And then there's a section basically saying the board will, and all the arrangements will be in place and, to allow you to participate via remote op. So that's really the entire outline of the policy. I would say this is a draft version. If it's adopted here tonight, I send it to our attorney, Mr. Marino, to take a look at it, make sure there's nothing that's crazy. Maybe we send it to Stress Out, right? Stress Out as well. Let them, and maybe to get an actual policy number associated with it, because right now it's just a bunch of X's up there, what the actual number would be. So I'd say we approve a draft, we have an opportunity to adjust it, make changes. We'll take whatever changes you guys have into consideration, whatever our attorney comes back with as well, and maybe the next meeting look to adopt something more formal.
President.
Great, thank you, Mr. Abbasi. Yes, go ahead, Mr. Guzman.
One question I have is, I don't see anything in the draft. that pertains to someone not being in compliance with this policy.
Yeah, that's what Mr. Abbasi just said. So we would need to decide if we want to include here like some kind of,
What's the sense of a policy?
if there's no penalty, yeah. Well,
Wait, you do have another policy that says that if you miss 3 meetings, you can be removed from the board. So
Yeah.
I think your consequences that any above 3 would not be permissible, and then your absences would be unexcused, and then would count towards that other policy.
yeah, and I was gonna mention that, Mr. Molino, and also, but we want the language to say it can be grounds for dismissal. It doesn't mean that automatically you're gonna be dismissed.
It would have
But
to
it-
come down to a vote anyway.
Yeah, it can be grounds for dismissal. That would be like a potential, penalty for violating this policy, right? So we could include that. So that's one suggestion, right? So one suggestion is to include language about a penalty, which, makes sense. I agree with you, Mr. Guzman. If we have a policy, there has to be some kind of consequence if the policy is violated.
And 24 hours in advance. I know some board, not all board members here are very busy, they have a lot going on. Is everyone comfortable with the 24 hours? Should it be maybe 12, 48?
How about if we suggest like that by before 12 noon of the day of the meeting? Would that be?
Something along those lines.
Would that be? Because I think by 12 noon, you should know if you're gonna come or not, right? So, and you should be able to let your fellow board members, or, let Lois know, so that, it's happened before that we come to the meetings and we don't have a quorum and we have to wait, so, and we kind of like, holding our breath to see if we're gonna have a quorum. So I think 12 noon is reasonable. What does everybody think?
The policy says, if somebody wants to go remote, require board president's approval, right? I don't know.
Can we,
I
do you
think 24 hours is, I don't think that's, I think, like the 12 people, 24 hours. But, I'm open to anything. That's why I agree with that.
So by 12 p.m. day of,
On the day of the meeting.
yeah, is everybody okay with that?
Mhm.
Well, you brought up another thing, Mr. Guzman, like to have board approval. We were talking about this in the committee meeting. So if we're saying that you can only attend 3 meetings virtually, I don't think it's necessary to request my approval or the board president's approval if you're within those 3. Once you go beyond those 3, then, because we have an exception here, right, for medical condition. If you want to request an approval and you're beyond the 3, then yes, I think it should require board approval, board president approval. But otherwise, I don't necessarily think that the board president needs to approve it. If you're within those 3, those are just my thoughts. Does anybody have any thoughts
But
on
you're
that?
also looking at the reason, that's why you're approving it. So if someone contacts you and say, I need to go or do this,
Okay.
you're looking at the reason and say, okay, that's a valid reason to go virtual, so that's why the approval is there.
I see what. So it would be either like one of these 3 things that's mentioned in the second
Correct.
paragraph, like a medical condition, you have to be out of state, or an unforeseen emergency. Okay, all right, I understand.
Another thing too is, instead of this policy is in writing, it'll be adopted by the board, so we want to make sure we get this right. All requests require the prior approval of the board president, right? Board president, or perhaps we can add in the absence of the board president, the board vice president. I mean, how about if you're unavailable or
Yeah.
something like that happens?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense.
If I may suggest, maybe the idea that like only for regularly scheduled board meetings, like say there's something that comes up or I need to get at the last minute board meeting, just for whatever crazy reason, like it would be nice to have that.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, that's true, because we've had to like change the schedule meetings. It doesn't happen often, but,
Which the one in October,
oh, that's right, yeah.
I mean, everyone in here is a volunteer, so
you know, I appreciate us doing this. I really do, because I think it's going to make us a lot more squared away, more organized. But we have to realize that we're still all volunteers, and we're very busy. So I think we have to find that proper balance.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not meant to be, punitive in any way,
I know.
it's meant to just kind of, make sure that we're cohesive and we're, present and
And
we're,
organized.
We have
doing, what we're supposed to be doing, for sure.
I have a question. So
Yes.
with all the stipulations regarding turning your mic on, turning your camera on, not being able to vote at the executive session, having it only happen 3 times, would it look too bad if we extended that to 5?
I think that's a lot, but.
Well, this is a question. I think, we, go ahead, Mr. Galetta.
Along those lines, like what, echoing what husband was saying and Dr. Webb, potentially, I know when we first spoke about it, when it came up the first time, we talked about a number consecutive in a row rather than a hard number, because as well as tensioned as it is, like you said, there are just sometimes where things come up. I think it's more likely that things will come up rather than, back to back to back weeks in a row, where, if you can't come 4 weeks in a row, there's an issue, versus if, there are times where it might be 5, Dr. Webb just had a bit, there's times where it might be 5, it might be, you don't want it to be that, and I think everybody here definitely takes it seriously. So it potentially, my suggestion would be, can we potentially look at, rather than, what are the consequences of voting on it tonight versus maybe taking what we have, adding the suggestion and sending it to Mr. Merlino because again, even with, it's great, way more work than I put into it. Obviously, he did a great job. Reads well, but it would be best, I would think, for the attorney to look through just to make sure the language is right, and then whatever suggestions we decide, they say, hey, maybe no more than 2 in a row without approval. Maybe it's no more than 1 in a row without approval, but I think it is hard when everybody is volunteer, and we live in a crazy world, and things do just pop up. Unfortunately, everybody has kids, everybody has responsibilities, so
Yeah.
That's just my suggestion.
Yeah, and to your point, Mr. Coletta, what I don't want is a policy that's so stringent that we're gonna be constantly having to make exceptions, because then that policy really becomes, ineffective.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think we should, tonight is just a first reading.
That's just first reading.
Vote on it tonight. I think we should take all of these suggestions and maybe, I think, with some notes, send some notes back to Mr. Abbasi and the policy committee, and maybe you guys do a second draft, and also including Mr. Merlino's input, and do like a second draft for our September meeting, and we do a second reading. But I think one of the suggestions is reconsidering the 3, to either putting it up to like either a hard number of 5, increasing it, or to doing it like, you can't have more than 2 consecutive, or you can't have 2 consecutive, it can only be 1, that's an option too. So, those are suggestions, and I'm actually just taking notes now as we're talking, so I can send those to, to you and, Ms. Hodgson, to you and Lois. And actually, I'll send it to the policy committee. I'll send it to you, Mr. Abbasi, and then you can, you and Mr. Martinez and Mr. Coletta can work on a second draft. Does anybody else have any questions or want to discuss any other part of the policy while we're talking about it? I actually did have a couple of questions. So I did want to clarify that point number 9 with so not being included in the executive session, and I think that's an important point, as Mr. Abbasi pointed out. But it said that, so the board member who's virtual will be excluded from the executive session, but does that mean that they're going to be locked off, or are they gonna just listen? Because then it says later that they're gonna they'll abstain, so I was a little unclear on that. Could you clarify what you meant by that, Mr. Abbasi?
The way I understood it from the other meeting, from the other policy that I was taking this off of as an example, was no, because we don't know who else is in the background potentially, or who else may be listening to the audio and it's executive session, there may be sensitive stuff there. I understood it as, and so maybe we can clarify if that's what everybody wants, that they would be excluded from it altogether, and officially their vote would be abstain,
Okay.
but it would still count towards quorum.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought too, but I just wanted to clarify. So, yeah, excluded meaning they're basically gonna be like put in the waiting room or like logged off.
Right.
And their official vote would be abstain. Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. Does anybody have any concern about that part? Okay.
Madam President, because I think one of the conditions, if you notice 1, 2, 3, 4, there's saying you have to be in a secluded area, privacy has to be there, and you have to be there. So this kind of work with the last number 9, because again, we're mandating the person to be kind of in a room that have avoiding distractions, nobody in the background. So we're saying this already. So I don't think it's a problem staying and listening. Yes, no voting.
Well,
So I
You
think,
could hear what's going on, you could know, so you have an idea of what's happening. But again, as far as when it comes to voting, as Mr. Abbas, you're indicating, you don't have that.
okay, go ahead, Mr. Bassi. Were you gonna comment on that?
yeah, so I was gonna so just giving my example, my situation now. I'm in my office alone. There's no distractions around me currently, so I can participate in the meeting. But I can't control somebody being on my door with their ear up against the door, listening to the conversation. So I could participate really without distraction in the regular meeting, but executive session, especially if there's something of sensitive nature, I can't prevent someone from overhearing unless I have, unless I use a headphone. If we want to do something like that, where you can ensure only you hear audio, that would be the way to get around that.
But then it becomes an issue of like, well, how do we know for sure? And of course, we have to use the trust policy here, but like honor system. But it might just keep things simpler if we just said you're excluded. I mean, that might be something that comes down to a vote. Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, Jeff, what are most boards doing in terms of that specific issue?
So the code of ethics that you've all agreed to says that if you participate in executive, it's going to have to be confidential. So you've sworn that. So your obligation, your duty is to make sure that it's confidential. And so that would pertain, it goes beyond this. So, if the board does decide to allow executive sessions by Zoom, you still have that obligation to be confidential. And if you violate it, it's a code of ethics violation.
Well, that one may come down because I agree with Mr. Abbasi. I feel like if you're virtual, you shouldn't be able to, you should be excluded from that portion of the meeting. But I mean, we may have differing opinions. So I
might
think,
need that vote too.
Right, that's what it's.
well,
That's the
so
doctrine of necessity, right?
what is it?
Yeah, you have the doctrine of necessity, right, at that point, Marleno?
Oh.
If they need the vote, if they need
For a quorum.
for a quorum.
Yeah, well, to be honest with you, you almost never vote in executive session. So
Right,
it's
you have to come
it's
out.
not real that's really not an issue.
I get it.
Wait, I'm sorry, I missed that. Could you say that again? You're almost never what?
You never vote in executive session. We have to take all action in public. So that would not be the issue.
But if they come out and vote and they have to abstain and they don't have enough votes, then what happens?
See that was, so if you abstain from executive, you should still be obligated to come back into public to take any action. So somebody that is virtual would have to abstain from the executive, but stay in the meeting overall, and then come back when the executive is done.
But they wouldn't, if they were asked to vote, they wouldn't be informed on what they were voting on.
That's the issue.
Madam President, sorry, I apologize. I know, like we said, the purpose of this is to keep it so that we're all on the same page. And I think it does kind of serve as a deterrent to doing, if you are ineligible to vote, if you do the executive section for Zoom, it could be one of those things that keeps people like, again, so it's not abuse. Like, hey, if it is, unfortunately you're excluded, you can participate the rest of the meeting, but yeah, that's something then like, hey, these are issues that you wanted to be on the board, you want to be involved, you know, then you have to make the effort to be here in person. So just another thing to consider.
Yeah, I like the idea that it's gonna be an executive session, most it should be in person. But let's just remember, and Mr. Molino, you can confirm this. If the board member is virtual, we go into executive, come out to executive, take formal action, roll call is triggered, that board member could still vote yes or no. You know what I mean? So,
Right?
you know, so it's,
And then they wouldn't have the benefit of having heard the conversation.
but they could still, nothing is
That's a
stopping them
concern.
from voting yes or no. Like you can still vote yes or no. I mean, it is what it is. You can't stop it. I mean, the right thing for that board member to do is to abstain, right, in that situation.
Right.
Well, maybe you do need that vote to take an action. That's good, you know, but I say my personal opinion, if, like, I agree 100% with Mr. Collado out there. It's an executive session, we should be here in person. Come out and take formal action and let the chips fall where they fall.
And truth be told, we don't really have that many executive sessions, you know? So I think let's think of policy committee, think about this, okay? Take in all of this feedback and also, you know, what Mr. Molino said and think about it. And then it'll come down to a vote. My gut reaction is that I think you should be here. And I think if you're not here virtually, you should be excluded. That's my gut reaction. But it does complicate things that, you know, if we were to have to vote, you know, and that person didn't have the benefit of hearing the conversation, you're going to be, you know, and they don't want, we need the vote, let's say, they don't want to abstain, that's problematic. But, I mean, I guess we could address this policy, Mr. Molino, the policy could address just like the, obviously no policy can address every single possible scenario, right? So the policy would be valid if it addressed most scenarios, right?
Right, right. And so maybe, and like I mentioned before, the code of ethics. So a lot of districts have hybrid. So a lot of districts have done something similar. And I've seen the most, number 9, just referring back to the code of ethics. And if there's a violation, everybody can see it. So if everybody sees you on Zoom and you're an executive and you hear it, and these meetings are recorded. So, you know, if somebody hears somebody else in the room, it's a pretty easy to prove a violation of the code of ethics. So, you know, that might be the consequence.
Okay, thank you. And I had one other question. Let's see. In the last, well, actually 2 things, but the part about, it's this next to last paragraph where it says, in addition, the electronic equipment must permit the board president to recognize the board member, to make comments, ask questions, vote, and fully participate in the board meeting as if the board member was present at the meeting. Did you, Mr. Abbasi, were you referring to something like the, you know, raise your hand icon or something like that? Like the equipment must allow
No.
whatever platform we're using? What did you mean by that?
Physical equipment that you have in the room that allows me to hear you, the microphone, you can hear me, like it's there. It's not just off of one person's phone. Like, so we are set up since the hybrid whole situation started since COVID. So that's it's just a technicality, but we already have that kind of regularly at our meetings. It's what allows the public to join via Zoom every time.
Got it. Okay. Right, we're lucky we already have that set up, so, okay, good. And then the other thing, the last paragraph, I think there might be a typo here. It says, the last sentence, unless I misunderstood this, the board member requesting participation in a board meeting through the use of an electronic device shall participate in the entire public meeting under the conditions outlined in this policy and cannot participate in the selected portions should it say the non-public meeting?
No, that's basically saying, I'm gonna listen to the first half an hour, go do my own thing for 20 minutes and come back and catch the end of the meeting. Like, I have to be here the entire meeting. I can't just do it for selected portions of the meeting. It's not up to my discretion. If I'm gonna be virtual, if it counted as, hey, I was at the meeting, I have to be here for the entire meeting and not just selected portions of it. That's how I understood the intent of that.
Oh, okay, maybe that can be, and I can look at it too, maybe that can be like a little tweak, because that was a little unclear to me. I don't know if that was unclear to anybody else,
Yeah, I
but,
think if you rewrite it just like he said it, like if he rewrites it just like he said it, that'd be a little easier to.
okay, I'm gonna go back and reread it, okay.
So we're paying attorney a lot of money to make sure he sends the right message.
Yeah, okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take all of what I noted here, all of the feedback that, you know, I heard here, and I'm gonna send it to the policy committee. But I would suggest if anybody else has any additional thoughts on this, that you, Mr. Merlino, can they email the policy committee directly?
Yes, they could.
Individual board, can an individual board member email the policy committee directly, or should they just email one person?
Not if you're on it. Because there'll be 5 then, right?
Oh, so it'll be, okay, so maybe just email, Mr. Obasi, or if you have any additional comments.
How about if, with the camera on and everything, how about, sometimes through Zoom, people put their picture on there? Is that allowed?
Well, this didn't even specify camera
No,
on.
that's what I'm saying.
This-
No, it's in there.
So camera on, but
It should be on. If you don't know.
It says,
You can't verify.
use of an electronic device, let's see,
I heard it say on and everything.
I saw, I just saw like audio, I didn't see anything about the camera, because I actually made a note about that. Let's see, where is
Yeah,
it?
it's number 4, I think.
Number 4,
Board member
okay.
has to be visible.
Okay, so it says the board member will be visible, so I guess that implies that your screen is on, is that right?
Yeah,
Rephrase it, the camera has to be on.
Okay,
clarify as a
let's
lot.
specify that the camera should be on.
I guess I could put up a picture of myself and I would be visible. I
Yeah.
guess.
Give me the illustration.
You know, we
So,
joke
yeah,
about
at least
this
you can
stuff.
put that on there
Yeah.
so people can know, 'cause if you're not
Every
on there,
every board member here is good, but we don't know what's gonna happen down the line. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, okay, so you know what, if anybody else has any additional, feedback, just email me, and then I'll share it with the policy committee. But otherwise, I will send the policy committee these notes, and then you can do a second draft, and we'll get it again in September. So I guess, what would we say that we're going to table 9.2?
No, you can still do this as a first reading,
Is this one?
because it's not effective. It's not effective until you do a second reading.
I'll make a motion to adopt this policy, Madam President, pending the changes.
So moved. Okay, so I'm so sorry, I missed that because I was talking to Ms. Augustine. Mr. Polino, you said that we can accept it as a draft?
Yes, because it would be a first reading. So it's not effective, it's not in effect, but this would count as your first reading.
Okay, all right, that's good. And then Ms. Augustine did point out that we need to say in the policy when this will take effect. So, I guess if we specify like upon approval, I think, take effect upon approval. Okay. All right, so,
So let me do this again. As policy committee, I'd like to move items 9.1 and 9.2, noting that 9.2 is the first reading, and is not taking effect until a final draft is approved in a future agenda item.
Second.
okay, so moved by Mr. Rabasi, seconded by Dr. Webb. Roll call, please.
Mr. Abasi?
Yeah.
Mr. Coletta?
Yes.
Ms. Quadrado?
Yeah.
Mr. Guzman?
Yes.
Mr. Matzo?
Yes.
Mr. Ramadan?
Yes.
Dr. Webb?
Good work, policy committee, and yes.
Yes.
Martinez is on, yes, as well.
Hey, Ref.
Let's go down to finance and physical plan. Mr. Motzko?
I'd like to move 12.1 through 12.18.
Moved by Mr. Motzko, seconded by Mr. Coletta. Roll call, please.
Mr. Rossi,
So, yes.
Mr. Coletta,
Yes.
Ms. Quadrado,
Abstain from 12.4 expenditure 71180. And yes for everything else.
Mr. Guzman,
Yes.
Mr. Matzo,
Yes,
Mr. Ramadan,
Yes.
Dr. Webb,
Yes.
and Mrs. Issa.
Yes.
and Martinez is on too.
Oh,
Martinez, Ruffy's on.
Mr. Martinez,
Yes.
He just take it.
I know, but I'm thinking that's.
yeah.
Because I
Oh, that's
should,
true.
because I'm not gonna know,
Okay. Okay, new or old business? Anybody have any new or old business? Mr. Guzman?
I know I brought this up in the past regarding proposal to put a sidewalk coming up Henry Street, a small parking lot to the left of it. It's like a bunch of mulch or whatever, put a sidewalk there. So the public walks on the sidewalk and not through the parking lot. They get hit by a car. We have another sidewalk on the other end, but we're missing one at this end. So what I was gonna ask, and I'm in the security safety committee here, Mr. Ramadan, Mr. Coletta, is if it's possible to ask the administration to explore that option as we do the inclusive park.
So the inclusive part's coming, this week, right? They're gonna start with it this week. We got this project and we got the other construction project. I know that's something that, I think we have that in our long-term planning. If not, we gotta put that potential project in there, just so we have it in. We can't use capital funds unless we have it in our long-term plan. I don't know if we have it in our long-term plan, but we might actually.
Yeah, we can look into updating our, long range facility plan to add it, but obviously it's not gonna be this year, right? So we can definitely explore it.
Yeah, that was my question.
Yeah.
If the board, since we're all here, if the board is okay with it, we can explore possibly adding that specific sidewalk to this project.
Just for my own knowledge, it's our property and it's not the town, like, we have to do that, just wanna make sure that I understand. So that's the.
Well,
exploration.
that's what I'm at.
That's what we're going to
That's what I'm
explore.
suggesting.
Okay.
I want, yeah, exactly. Make sure it's our
Yeah, I
property.
think
Maybe that
that's-
property might belong to the folks that own the
Yes.
house, I'm not sure.
Okay,
But if it's ours, if we can add it to the, to all the playground area, whatever, we can add it to that. So avoid red tape and the safety. I just want to see if.
Yeah, so we can-
sooner or later.
Yeah, I think I
The
want
board
to
is
explore
okay.
it. I also want to just have this board be, so far the construction company's been very good with doing things on time and within the budget. But we still got that last push. I'm always afraid there might be $100,000 work order or something unforeseen that they drill in there and they find out the piping's got to be replaced or something. Because we already had that one thing that was, $20,000 or $30,000 over. it.
yeah, and then we brought up the concrete.
Mhm. So I don't want to commit too much
Got
towards
it.
anything, but I still do want to look that into the future.
So can we at least look and start with checking the property? Is that okay?
That works.
Okay, cool.
Yes?
I want last meeting I had suggested electronic payments for the after school program and certified angels. Were we
Yes.
able to look into that?
I was not able to, but I will, okay?
And Mr. Bassi, did you have something?
Yeah, so did we reschedule the meeting for the 23rd of October as it conflicts with the New Jersey School Board Association Conference?
Yeah, it's a good catch. I know, I think Lisa caught that.
No, Ms. Quadrado.
Or you caught that today. So that's something that I think we'll just have to maybe send out dates and maybe do a straw poll with Lois to see
Yeah.
who can be there.
Yeah, I think I sent you an email today about, no, I sent you an email.
Yeah, I saw it, yeah.
Okay.
It stuck up on me today because I
Yeah.
had it from my notes from the last meeting and I forgot
Yeah.
about it. So, yeah, we do need to reschedule that. The sooner the better so that everybody can get it on their calendar.
Okay. Just selfishly, I know I just put together this virtual policy, but the next two board meetings are the 25th of September and the 23rd of October. I'm traveling for both. So I'm hoping to not not fall into the 3 consecutive before we even adopt the policy.
I think you need to amend the
The Omar
policy just
policy,
for you,
yeah.
Omar. Okay, okay. Anything else? That's my agenda. Okay, so can I have a motion to open the floor to citizens on Operation Schools?
So move.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Motzko, seconded by Ms. Quadrado, all in favor?
Uh,
Okay,
Aye.
floor is open. Anybody, Mr. Miller?
No hands.
Okay, can I?
Motion to close.
Okay. Moved by Mr. Guzman, seconded by Mr. Motzko, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
What member of the year?
Moved by Mr. Guzman, seconded by Mr. Coletta, all in favor? All
Aye.
right, everybody, enjoy the last 2 weeks of summer and have a great and safe Labor Day
Absolutely.
weekend, and we'll see you in September. Thank you.